this week we're continuing our cost series, and this week we're specifically talking about the cost of injuries
From my new office.
from coming to you live. Well, not live, but coming to you from his new office.
All right,
Okay.
welcome back, everyone. Never had an office. 24 years, I finally have one, and we're doing a podcast in it. This is awesome. We're going to break down what all of the variables include.
Yep.
So, first one, management time.
Yeah.
That's the one that no one calculates. We get caught up in work comp and the medical bill and how many days they're restricted duty, or there's a lost time, they're away from work. What about all the management time?
Yeah.
Or the employees' time that all just got shifted?
Yeah.
That's a huge cost.
So there's the time of I'm going around and I'm doing an investigation. I'm maybe doing some interviews. I'm pulling those employees out of their normal
I'm finding
position to
documentation.
do those. Yeah, I'm running down training documents and
I'm
programs.
still keeping the floors running. So now I got to
policies,
fill
yeah.
in with you to my job.
Yep.
And I got to retrain you almost that afternoon because you haven't done it in a while. But I still got to do all that while I'm managing this.
Yeah. So it's a huge cost. It's staying over late sometimes as a manager.
Absolutely.
It's Saturdays, it's Sundays, and some of you are like, "What's new? I'm already doing those." But
Yes. So
but
that's
it's just one more thing, which means something else usually falls off because we're focused on this.
absolutely.
So there's
That
only so
drives
many
us to
hours.
the next cost.
Yeah.
Loss of business, loss of productivity.
Yeah, loss of productivity.
Because
Absolutely.
so now that manager's time, 80% of their day is supposed to be running the business, 20% making it better. Now you just made 100% of their day trying to run the business.
Absolutely. And so we're also working on timelines that we didn't necessarily create.
Yeah, in
right?
the next 3 days, the
Yeah,
next
so
5
we've
days,
gotta
next
do
4 hours.
Yeah, so we have to report the incident within a certain amount of time. We've
Correct.
got to complete an incident report and
That's correct.
investigation within a certain amount of hours. There's all these timelines that start kicking
But it's
in.
the holidays, and I thought we had a special going out at this plant, and we were going to be selling awesome cakes for Halloween. Well, you still got to do that now
Awesome.
on
cakes for
on
Halloween.
top of everything else, because you
Well,
don't think about people's minds are all over the map on this stuff.
yeah, so it's definitely and absolutely management time, and then the loss of the productivity that we're now shifting the focus away. We're not improving the business. We're not making it better, and we're not running more efficiently.
Right. And now if that person does get hurt and say they can't work for a few weeks,
Yep. There's the work comp
you've lost the
cost.
knowledge of that person.
Yep.
They had a way they did it, that they were perfect at that job because they were an expert at it. Now you've taken that expert out of that position, and now there's no way to have exactly the
I'm
same.
filling with whoever I can in that moment.
That's correct.
Right? Or
And
I'm
you
running
lost
short.
the knowledge of how they run. The machine has a hiccup every 7 times.
Yeah.
So they
Yep.
know how it runs.
This
and how
is
it moves.
especially critical with my maintenance and my refrigeration teams, my
Absolutely. You
utilities
have 2
teams.
maintenance some of these plants on the weekends.
Yep.
If one of them's out, now the
We
other
got
one's
problems.
Yeah, you can't write a
Yeah.
procedure for everything they're gonna do. That knowledge is gone during that time, and you have that gap, which means you have risk someone else now having an injury.
Yeah. So first, I'm running shorthanded,
Right.
right? Because I may not be able to replace that entity with whatever they're doing. So maybe I'm just running shorthanded. I don't have somebody that
Correct.
day. So now that's adding extra stress to other people in that department
Absolutely.
on that line within the maintenance team.
So now I have
potentially.
Saturday soccer. Now I can't be off Saturday because we had an injury, and now we're running longer because we still got the count we gotta get out. So now I'm working more hours.
Yeah, or we didn't get to a certain project, or we couldn't,
That's
we
correct.
couldn't do the repair and maintenance because it takes 2 people, but we couldn't schedule it because we're short.
So
during the
all
week.
these things
All
start
these things
cycling.
start snowballing. Yeah,
Yep.
which that then affects from the HR side my retention and turnover
And my morale.
my morale, my
Yeah.
engagement.
Yep.
So people start becoming not as engaged in what's going on. They start
I'm trying to get through the shift and go home, so I
Yeah.
really don't care about everything else that day.
Yeah,
You
they're
know.
not satisfied with their work environment because things are getting harder. They're already maybe tough, and now
Absolutely.
it's worse. There's more
It was
added
my
to their
5th
plate.
day. I'm supposed to be off. Now it's my 6th day. I just
Yep.
want to go home.
And now, before you know it, it's several weeks, and I haven't had a day off.
Yep.
I'm working every
now
Saturday,
my
Sunday.
risk of injury went up. So it
That's right.
it has a direct
The
spiral
fatigue.
effect.
Yep.
Yep.
So now we're looking at fatigue of the existing employees who are doing more, and they haven't had that time off to recover, recuperate,
Absolutely.
or clear their minds from the mental health
So
standpoint.
that's almost an ergo issue in itself.
Yeah.
If you think about that, we did an episode a while back on ergo, but that's one.
Yeah.
Is that now I'm just worn out because it's been 6, 7 days. I wasn't planning on that. I never get the day to recover.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, my mental health now is affected.
Yep.
because now I'm missing the holidays. I'm missing the Sunday. I'm missing the things I scheduled to do because someone else had an injury.
My spouse is aggravated because I'm not there, and when I am there, I'm more fatigued, I'm more tired.
That's correct.
Yep.
I really want to do the dishes today. I'm going to use that as the excuse. You know, I just worked 7
Sounds
days.
sounds correct.
I like to
Sounds correct.
soak the dishes and get them ready.
Listen, there's two people real quick sidebar, there's 2 kinds of people. There's the people who do the dishes, and then there's the people who soak the dishes because 'cause they're gonna do them later, but they don't really do them
That's
later,
right. But
right?
anyway, so then you have your customers. Your customers are not happy because you had an injury and makes them look bad.
Yep.
So now you get the press. Now you get the
Yeah,
things
there
coming
could be
out.
some potential bad PR for them. So
Absolutely.
now they're putting heat on the facility too,
Yep.
which again, so this is my management team who's now maybe working more hours because they're having to do this
And now
investigation.
they're
They're
worried
having to
about
do all
keeping the
these things.
customer happy.
Now they've got customer retention issues.
Supply chain's still there, but it's the way it looked. The way
Yeah.
it looked to them. It's
Yep.
the end user.
Absolutely. So we've got the heat that ops is now taking to make sure that the product gets out the door, but that we get a solution and a fix. So there's even more stress and strain on my management team.
Absolutely. And then there's government that comes in. So we got some litigation.
Regulatory agencies,
And then you
absolutely.
got some work comp that comes about it. And you're
Yeah.
trying to spend your time managing work comp when that time wouldn't be as much if you hadn't had the injury.
Yeah, so we have all of the costs that we just talked about are not necessarily I'm spending a dollar. So they're
Correct.
intangible, but they're still there, right?
Correct.
And then I have the actual tangible costs of I have fines that I have to pay. I have fixes I have to
Medical
put in place.
bills.
I have the medical bills, the
Yep.
hospital
Shuttle
bills, the
them back and forth. Someone's got
Yep.
to pay for that.
Work comp bills. I
Yep.
maybe have to change and adjust some pay here
Yep.
and there for adding employees or whatever that looks like. So there could be some financial costs to that. So we
And
have
there could be some legal costs down the road that other things come about.
Yeah, so there could be some litigation costs, attorney fees, and some things like that. So there are
Even for your
those as well.
location, your own attorney may be spending their time now trying to deal with
Well,
different
yeah,
issues.
if you don't have internal
Yeah.
company legal, you may have to get outside counsel.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
And then overall morale, that's I know we talked about it a couple minutes ago, but the longer this goes on, the more that changes.
It really does
And
start
that's
messing with people mentally.
It does. I've been to plants where I say, "Why do you work here?" Well, the other place I worked was kind of unsafe, and they feel it.
Yeah.
And that cost
Or the perception that if this is now repeated, that the management team doesn't care.
and then they feel weird, and
They leave
now
because they
we're
feel like
turnover again. Now
Yep.
we changed that narrative again. Where I had 3 great experienced people, but their family feels
I feel like the
a
management team
risk.
here
Yep.
doesn't care. I feel like they're not hearing that I have a concern. I feel like they're not valuing me because I'm
So
doing
now
all
I'm
these
just gonna
extra
quit for
hours.
that reason.
I feel that I'm taking heat from my family member.
correct.
So we end up losing employees and have that turnover all because we didn't manage the injury on the front end. So I think one of the biggest things that I hear, kind of the old school thought process was, well, we'll just take the injury and pay the bill. But what I think is important to note is that yes, there's the bill of all the things that the tangible costs we just talked about, where we're talking about, you said work comp, hospital bills, attorney fees, all of those things, the citations, those are all costs, and I'm not sure we're calculating that whole bill of the tangible costs. But I feel very confident that a lot of times we're not calculating at all the intangible things that
And
are still a cost and
Absolutely.
can be really a problem and a drain on the business in terms of, how people feel and the morale and the productivity.
One of my greatest costs that I worry about daily owning a company is the emotional state of my team.
Burning them out.
Burn them out
Burning
because
them
it
out.
does no good to have a great team if they all want to quit
They're exhausted.
and
Yeah.
they're tired and they can't run the product. We have a philosophy of, let's make sure we're ready to go so we have a great day and a great product.
Which
Well,
means they have to have a certain amount of downtime.
That's right. You have to. So
They have to have
we have to
recovery
factor
time.
in that time. It
Yes.
doesn't matter.
There's still a cost to that,
There's a
though.
cost to that. So that I'm trying to prevent that injury, and there's a
Yes.
cost to it. But if the injury does occur, now I can't send somebody somewhere. That
Yeah.
ripple effects greatly to everybody, travels and hotels and everything that just happened.
So one of the things we want to really look at is how do we get ahead of that? So solutions, right? This is
Right.
not just let's create a bunch of problems and concerns for you and give you nothing as a solution at the end. So one of my things would be is how do we prevent that burnout? That fatigue
that's
is
real.
fatigue is a huge reason for why some of the injuries happen, whether it's physical fatigue or mental fatigue.
Yes.
that can be a huge thing. So how do we make sure that people are getting that recovery time? So I know we're doing job cuts. I know that we're evaluating how many positions do we really need
Correct.
for X,
Right.
and can we distribute some of the responsibilities onto other team members? I want to really encourage you to evaluate what that's going to look like over the long term in terms of, is that going to be the last thing that pushes somebody to quit? And now we've lost all of that knowledge. So maybe that changes our downtime and how long we're
Sure.
down because they took some of that data with them. So we really want to evaluate, how can we get ahead of that, avoid that burnout,
Correct.
and try and retain those employees that really do have the knowledge and they do want to be there. So let's make them feel like
And
they're
if you
being
if you look at
heard.
that, hopefully you don't have the injury.
Yeah, that way they feel like there's
Yeah,
good communication. They can freely discuss, "Hey, I've got some concerns. This feels unsafe. This feels a little
that's
weird.
correct.
I don't feel right doing this. Something just seems let's have those open lines of communication. Let's make sure that we can discuss any potential risks that feel a little off so that they feel like it's a safe place to work." And I
Absolutely.
think that that'll go a long way.
Absolutely. These are our opinions.
Yes, they are.
Yes, yeah,
So
so
it's based on our experiences. We were both safety managers working in the plants. This is based on our experience with our own team, our own staff, based on being in the
myself,
field.
24 years being on the road.
Yeah,
You
being on the road. So do a risk assessment. We're not saying that it's perfect. We're not saying that it's the end all, but there are quite a few tangible and intangible costs. So before we approach something with, well, we'll just take the injury and move on, we want to make sure that we're really evaluating, what does that cost look like? In
Sure.
addition to, I think I'll leave you with this one. My final thing is why would we take an injury? First off, we don't want to hurt anybody. But second of all, I'm really big on not having some other entity tell me how to run my business.
Sure.
So now I'm having to do fixes on their timeline, the way they feel. I've got to get whatever parts and whatever contractors are available to do stuff.
Correct.
So I think that that would be the last thing, is that if we don't do it for the injury because it's the right thing to do, then we maybe just look at it from the business side of, why would we allow somebody else to tell us how and when we should spend our money and what we should spend it on in the timelines. That's not great either. So
Absolutely.
that's what we'll leave you with, I think, today. This is Joe Allen, Jen Allen. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on any socials at Allen Safety LLC. And I think that's all we've got today.
Thank you for listening today.
All right. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Safe, Efficient, Profitable, a worker safety podcast. If you're looking for more in-depth discussions or step-by-step solutions on all of the different safety and regulatory topics, please visit us at www.allensafetycoaching.com for web-based virtual coaching and training, or at www.allen-safety.com to book our team for on-site services, training sessions, to order merchandise, to learn more about our team and what services we provide in the field, or just simply to request a topic for us to cover on our next podcast. If you found today's podcast helpful and would like to support our podcast further, please help us by subscribing, liking, and sharing this podcast with anyone that could benefit from the information we cover here, as that helps us to continue to put out this free content. Thank you so much for your support.